How you going, people? Okay, I'm finally going to get around to actually answering what I wanted to answer without all the goofing off. So let's take a look. I read all the comments, a lot of good comments. Some of the people I agree with, some of the people I think have some wrong information. Some of the people are pretty close. So here's my take on kind of what's going on here. And I'm gonna give you from my experience of training shooters, actual training cops, training people in the Air Force, training people how to shoot, and evaluating shooting incidents. So I've got some experience. I'm not trying to toot my horn, but I've been around guns my entire life. So I'm going to give you my opinion. Doesn't mean I'm right, because remember, we only have what we see here, which always doesn't tell the story, and then we have what the shooter thinks happened, and then I think he did a couple other videos on what a couple other people said happened. But again, I'm always skeptical when people are explaining what happened when, it's not backed up by close-ups and guns, and we don't even know, some people are still arguing on whether STI makes a 22 and it's not a 22 and it must be a 9mm, and 9mm isn't rimfire isn't. So I mean, there's so many things so I may get it wrong, but let's try and learn a few things, and I'm going to get some terminology down so at least we're on the same page, because a lot of times people are asking kind of things like what's out of battery and what's a rimfire and what's, stovepipe and what's, a hang fire and what's a squib fire. So we're going to get into all those things so you understand. But let's take a look at this at a close-up view here and kind of see if we can see what happens. Let me mute it. Well, I'll just turn it on low. Okay, so it looks like on the first round it fired and the gun did not put a new round in. Okay, we call that a clue. Now, a lot of people will tell you that's a stage 1 or a stage 2 or stage 3, and you should immediately drop down to one knee, drop the magazine, slam rack, that change the mag, do attack. That's the problem when you have people teaching people who have never been in actual situations, and they're on the range trying to incorporate. In this video, the shooter uses the term, I was running at speed. Well, that's a tactical cool term, but when you start trying to do semi-tactical or half-tactical and you're on a range and there's safety procedures and you got to do certain things certain ways with certain rules, then you're not training tactical. Tactical is, shit's hitting the fan, you're dealing with it, you're staying in the fight, it doesn't matter. You're not asking other people to clear it, you're fixing your own malfunctions. And here, what I think we have is, halfway in, you're on the fence a little bit. You want to say you're training, and I'm not saying just this guy, I'm saying anybody. You want to say you're training tactical, and then you go out to a range and you have to have a range guy inspect you, and you have to have a buzzer go off in your ear. And I was big when I trained. I didn't like buzzers, and I didn't like ready on the fire, and I didn't like that. My shoot command when I ran rages was gun. If somebody says a gun, you draw and get in a fight. And there were some people that complained, well, just because somebody has a gun doesn't mean you can shoot, so you're actually training them to shoot every time. No, I'm training them that when they hear gun, they better go into shoot mode, get their gun out, and do an evaluation while they're either looking for cover, moving, drawing their gun, and assessing the situation. But I used gun, that was my fire command. Some people don't like it, some people do. Again, I liked not a whole bunch of rules, not a whole bunch of buzzards, not a whole bunch of people telling me where I can stand and where I can move and how to clear and hold your hand up, come clear my malfunction. So that's part of the problem. And again, I'm going to try to give the shooter, because I'm not trying to dog, I'm not going to say his name, if some people know him, whatever. I'm going to give the shooter the benefit that, look, he did some things right, he did some things because of the way he was trained. He did some things because of the way he was trained, and he's never had to do it in real life. And this is the first time he had to do it in real life, and he found out there was problems. And that's my big problem with people that say, carry pepper spray. It always works. And me, who's seen it not work and spray everybody else in the eyes and mess everybody up. I'm not a pepper spray fan. Does that mean nobody should carry it? No. It has its purpose, and it can have its purpose, and it may work just like the taser. But when you start getting into all these other force options or escalation, whatever the fancy term they're using now for use of force, when you start getting all these options, that creates lag time and it slows down your response and your reaction to an ongoing violent situation where seconds count. And, so anyway, so the first round fires, and he doesn't know it doesn't eject, like most people. I'm going to go back 10 seconds here so you can see it. Most people would not know the round's going off. Most people aren't looking for the round to eject. I mean, if he was really, 100% super guy, he would have noticed, hey, I didn't see a piece of brass fall out. You know why he didn't see the brass fall out? Because he was concentrating on his fancy sight, or he was concentrating on the target, or he was concentrating on moving squarely and tactical. There was a bunch of things, but some could say, any idiot could see the brass doesn't fall out. Sometimes I see my brass come out. Sometimes I don't. Most people in an actual situation look at the threat. They don't look at their gun. They don't look at their sights. They don't. And I know there's some shooters that say I was in a thing and my sights were crystal clear and they were perfect. Well, that's great. Most people in most shootings that I've studied, seen, interviewed, talked, been at, the people say, man, all I saw was what he was holding. And that's why most people who are shot in the hands, because cops focus on the threat, and that's where they end up shooting. Even though we're trained to shoot center mass, nobody's trying to shoot the pinky toe off the little finger. They are shooting, and they get tunnel vision on that threat, whether it be a knife, a gun, bazooka shot, whatever it is. That's what you end up staring at. So should he have seen the brass come out? I mean, if you want to nitpick and say, yeah, he should have if he's Mr. Tactical, and you know what? Sometimes I see my brass, sometimes I don't. In an actual situation, my brass coming out of the gun is the least of my worries. But that's a clue that brass didn't fall out. Of course, this guy's too busy with the timer, and there's two guys looking down. Nobody else saw it. And even if they did say it, would they say anything? Probably not. Again, we can nitpick things to death. I'm trying to make this a learning experience. And my other one was kind of funny experience. But all right, here we go. It fires. No brass comes out. He doesn't know till he pulls the trigger again, and then he's like, he heard click, and it's like, hey. And I tell people a lot, in an actual situation, in a really tactical situation, you're looking at the threat, and you're racking and tapping without looking at the gun. In a range-trained expert, they always look at their gun. I mean, it's just the way it is. Even me, because I'm not training that way anymore, now, if I have a malfunction, I look at my gun. Because unless you train all the time, every time, you're going to fall back into, wonder what's going on here. Let me see if I can fix it. So he looks at his gun, moves it closer to his face so he can see. There's really no reason for him to move that closer. But he moves it in so he can see, which, again, is a normal. I mean, people can say, oh, it's stupid. I heard some people saying, only an idiot looks at their gun. Man, everyone that I've ever trained looked at their freaking gun when it doesn't work because they're shocked. They're expecting it to work. And there's this, holy cow, it didn't work, which is why you train for large muscle mass movements, gross motor skills, not fine. When shit hits the fan and things like this happen, you want your body to go on autopilot. You don't want it to go, I was looking at a threat with tunnel vision. I'm afraid to get shot. I'm scared to death. My heart rate's up. I can't see. I can't hear. I'm holy cow. And now I'm going to go to, you know what? Let me look down and refocus my eyes on this close object, even though my pupils are dilated, letting in all this light so I can focus on far objects. I digress on fight or flight. So he looks down. What happened? Now, what I don't know if he looked down and when he saw, when you look down at your gun, you should be able to see whether your breech, and the breech is where the bullet goes into the barrel, where the magazine's at, the hole that occurs before the bullet gets in the barrel. And when the bullet's in the barrel, it's considered in the breech. So and that might not be the tactical term, whatever, in the bore, in the rifle, in the, I can't think of the term I'm thinking of right now, but whatever. So if you look at a gun that's out of battery, and I say out of battery, some will say it's not closed, it's not fully closed, it's hang fire, whatever. They'll use all these terms, and a lot of people aren't on the same page. When your slide goes forward on an automatic, it should close completely. It shouldn't be partly opened. If a slide is partly open, most guns, and I say most, you cannot pull the trigger because they don't want the round going off unless it's fully in the barrel, the breech, it's encased, so the firing pin only comes out when the bullet is properly loaded and ready to be fired. So most guns won't fire when it's out of battery. And out of battery is where the bullet's not completely in where it's supposed to be. That should be simple for the people that don't know all the terms and a visual there. So when he looked at his gun to clear it, he should have noticed, or even before he looked at it, as soon as the malfunction happened, you can tell normally if your gun goes back into full battery or it stops short. It just feels different. If you shoot a lot of rounds, it's like, that didn't feel right. Something's wrong. That's a clue. So he immediately goes up into his rack to clear his malfunction. Some people train this way. I mean, I like a tapping rack. There's other people that say there's no reason to attack. You should try to clear from the top first. There's other people that say always tap and rack because most of your malfunctions are caused by a magazine that's not fully seated, not fully pushed up. And if you tap it, normally you'll clear it before you rack. And that way you're ensuring that a second round will go in and feed properly because your magazine is seated properly. Okay, I teach tap and rack. I like to tap and rack. I used to train tap and rack. Would I do it now instinctively like I used to when I was doing it every day at the range and I was teaching people? Probably not. But again, that just comes. No one's going to be at peak performance unless they're training at peak performance all the time. So he pulls the slide back. One. Doesn't work. Now, to me, the gun looks out of battery because I see a barrel here. And again, I can't really tell and I can't really zoom in any more than I am. But to me, it looks like the gun is not in battery. The slide is not fully forward, which indicates it could be a lot of things. Magazine may not be seated properly. Magazine could be empty. Round could have not ejected. Round could have jammed. Round could have stovepipe. Could be a double feed. And I'll go over all those definitions here in a second, but I kind of wanted to get everybody on the same page on what I'm talking about so you kind of see it. So the gun doesn't look in battery. He, again, visually inspects it. Now, did he visually inspect it or did he just go through the motions? That's another problem I have with these tactical guys who are teaching people all these great tactics that work really good when they do 14 takes and they cut out the bad and they only show the good on how fast and how great they are and how everything's automatic. And you give people this false perception that, yeah, if you just do what I do, you'll be just like this. Well, it doesn't work that way. So he looks, but does he really see? When you look down, you should see if there is a bullet either stovepiped, hanging out, not fed, whether the magazine has a round half in and half out. You should be able to assess when you look on what happened. I'm not sure what he saw because I wasn't there. But I'm thinking he saw a bullet halfway in the barrel and not fully loaded. And he was like, So I don't know if he pulls his magazine out here. Okay, he does. So again, I can't tell if the slide is back or partially closed. That would matter. It looks to me like his finger's on the trigger to me. If it isn't, I can't see it. To me, it looks like it is. Finger probably shouldn't be on the trigger when you're doing clearing procedures. Does it happen? Yes. Is it a training issue? Maybe. Is it a panic issue? Maybe. Is it he's so caught up in speed and beating the little buzzer bell that he's not thinking clearly? Again, gross motor skills, train the way you shoot. This is how you prevent these things, but it's hard to do because most people, even at tactical, that's why people always cracking on Jaeger school. Jaeger puts you out there, and although it's not safe, and I even cracked on one of the video range, I thought it was really unsafe. They had people going in front, but when you're training for real life, it's not safe. Sorry, people. You can run around with all your eye protection, ear protection, helmets, knee pads, elbow pads, and everything else. It's not safe because things don't happen. You're dealing with a gun that explodes, that uses pressure and force and explosion to force something down a barrel at 1,000 feet per second or more, and it's dangerous. So, for the safety sallies that want to make it, shooting should be as safe as buying an ice cream cone at your own home, reaching in a freezer and pulling it out. It's just not going to happen. But, there's no common sense is a freak superpower nowadays. All right, so he pulls his magazine out. Again, if the slide was half open or partially open and not locked to the rear, he should have seen what was going on. All right, here we go. Pulls the mag out. Holds it in this hand. Some people will train, once you have a malfunctional mag, dump it and carry another mag. Now, somebody sent me an article they did on this guy, and I was going to do a video on it, and he says in the article, I don't carry extra mags. If I can't take them out with the mag I got, or something to that effect. If you want to go read the article, you can read it. He holds the magazine. Some people teach to hold that magazine. Some people don't. So they say dump it, get rid of it, put it in a new bag. He's saying he doesn't believe in carrying extra mags, and he doesn't think people should carry extra mags. I think in his art, maybe he didn't say other people. I don't remember. I just glanced through it, saw a few things, and I went, I disagree with him. He says that I think pepper spray is like effective 99 or 90% of the time. I was like, are you kidding me? Where the hell did you get that stat? But anyway, that's on his little article they did on him as the internet guru gun guy. Here, he's holding on his mag, which it doesn't appear he has another mag. So if you don't have another mag, then you want to probably hang on to your mag. If you're in a fight and your mag goes bad and you don't have another mag, well, you can call this guy and tell him, why did you tell me not to carry an extra mag? I'm not running around. When I work the roads and when I'm going out and I'm expecting engagement, I absolutely had several mags on me. But for concealed carry now, when I'm running around, I don't have an extra mag. Some people say I'm stupid. And what happens if, and butts and coconuts, and if a frog had wings, he wouldn't bump his ass when he jumped. Let's get back to this video. 1, 2, 3, 4. Moves the gun very close. And I'll tell you why I think the round went off. Wasn't because of the trigger. But anyway. Now, this shaking action here, and again, this is just a swinging wild ass guess here. This shaking action here leads me to believe there's no magazine in a gun, so there is either a round or empty casing stuck in a gun, and he is trying to shake it free. He's looking at it, he sees it, and he's trying to shake it free. Here's what I think happened. There was a loaded round that was stuck in a barrel because the other head, and I can't get where the other head case snapped off before or after this incident. Again, I don't know. But I'm thinking there is either a round hanging in the barrel, half out, bent, or it's hanging straight in. And this constant racking is slamming a rimfire, because I think he has a 22. Someone else said it was a 22. Somebody else said it was a 9mm. I don't know. I'm thinking it's 22, and I'm going to zoom in on his hand when he shows it, and you can make your own judgment. But this slamming action on a live round is what caused it. Now, some people will say he shouldn't have done that. Other people will say, you know what, when you get a ring hanging on there, the worst thing you can do is start slamming the thing into it. Again, this is what happens when you mix tactical speed, fast, I want to be cool, race the clock training in with range training. In an actual situation, would he be standing here doing this? Is this negative training? If you're really training tactical and speed, do you really want to train standing up in the open, not in cover, not getting down? I was a big guy. When you're reloading, drop to one knee. So when I trained, when I was reloading, I dropped. Make yourself smaller. Get lower to the ground. Get to cover. Do something instead of standing up like this, working on your gun. This is range training. It is not survival tactical training. But there's a lot of people that will tactical train and will teach this. Boom. When that slide went forward on the last time is what caused that round to go off. The finger does not look like it's on the trigger to me. Some people were saying he pulled the trigger. I think he did have it on there earlier. I do not think it's here, and I think the round went off because of that last slide rack, or the multiple slide racks before that damaged a 22 casing. All right? Okay, to me, clearly right here, this is a 22 round. And this mangled thing here, he said it was a stovepipe. I'm not sure it was a stovepipe. I think it was I think it was stuck in a barrel. But and hopefully I can find a picture to show you what I think happened. So now that we have the incidents kind of laid out here,
I slid the slide back, and that round detonated, and that gave.
Okay, so let's get a stovepipe down. A stovepipe is normally a round that is stuck and has failed, that is not ejected and left the thing. So this slide right here would be out of battery. It's not closed. It's not the way it should be. This slide is not closed in the way it should be. A stovepipe traditionally is straight up and down. Hence the term stovepipe, the old stovepipe. Got this from Professor Buck. The old stovepipe oven, the stovepipe went up and down. So when they saw a round like this, they would say, oh, that's a stovepipe. It looks like a stovepipe. When you clear this type, and I don't know if I can, they show this on a Glock. My Glock has never done this, but this is a set-up picture. So this stovepipe up and down here, to clear this, normally you grab the top of the slide, run your hand back, that falls out. Some people teach pull this back, turn the slide sideways, and shake it to make sure this round falls off. Then let the slide forward and it loads around. So that's what a stovepipe is. So this picture would be called what I call a double feed. You have two bullets, hence the word double, trying to load into one hole, the barrel, the breech, whatever you want to call it. That doesn't work real well, and this causes a jam. And if you pull the slide back here, this bullet will keep ramming because the ejector, this little thing right here, hooks on to the lip of this bullet right here, pulls it out and throws it out. When this can't connect with this bullet, it will never eject it. So this, I mean, some people will call this a stage 3 malfunction, code 3, whatever. I mean, there's all kind of great terms that people want to label as theirs to explain this. But you know what? You got a double feed. You need to clear it. And this is where you need to rip the mag out, lock the bolt to the rear, and get that round out of there, either with your finger, by shaking, or whatever. I think this is partly what his problem was. Not completely. In my mind, this is probably what his 22 bullet looked like. Sometimes 22 bullet will feed in and it will get stuck or won't feed all the way, or it'll double feed and it bends. And this part of the bullet is in the barrel and this part is not. Now, because this is a rimfire bullet, this rim down here is different than a primer bullet. This gun is fired by hitting anywhere along this rim, and it causes an explosion, what ignites the power and fires the bullet. Different than a primer. A bullet with a primer, also called a centerfire, the firing pin has to hit the bullet right here in order to make this round go off. On a rimfire, what you have to hit goes all the way around the base of the bullet. So if you imagine this part of this bullet filled with powder instead of just this little area right here, if you hit this area here, it would cause a bullet to go off. On a rimfire. On a primer bullet or a centerfire, technically both have primers. But anyway, just know the difference between a rimfire and a primer. If he slammed the round on this, the odds of the gun going off is less, because this has to get hit dead center normally by the firing pin in order for it to go off. And if you hit it anywhere at the bottom, you don't get the penetration on the firing pin, so it won't go off. You have to get something to penetrate that little hole right there in order to get, a bunch of guys probably had to say that a lot. Women like penetrate. No, I digress. Anyway, so you have to hit this primer directly in order to make this round go off. On a rimfire, if you hit it anywhere along the rim, it goes off. Firing pin, it crushes the rim. What else can we think of in Sesame Street School of Shooting that might crush a rim? Could slamming a slide into the rim cause a crushing rim action? I believe it did. Some people were using the term squib load. Now, squib load is the same as some people use as a hang fire. They're different. A squib load is a bullet, and I used to call it like a half load. There's not enough power or powder or explosive or pressure to get the bullet to fully exit the barrel, so the gun goes pop. It sounds like a very low pop. The gun doesn't kick. It doesn't give you the normal round fired. Most experienced shooters know you don't fire a second round if you feel a squib load or a half powered round. That sounded odd. You want to check the barrel because if you don't click the barrel and you fire another round when there's a bullet stuck inside the barrel because there wasn't enough pressure to get it out, you're going to blow up your barrel. Now, if you look at your gun and you don't check your barrel and you decide to fire another round afterwards, then you better be wearing your all-pro protection. This is another example of a squib load or half load. The bullet did not have enough pressure to get out, so the bullet stops in the barrel. If you fire another round, when that full pressure of a bullet goes in here into a closed area and it traps 50, 60,000 PSI, whatever the pressure is, and it traps it in this small area and it can't escape, because pressure escapes because it pushes the bullet out. So the pressure gets less as it goes down the barrel. Pressure is more when it's first fired, and then it decreases as it goes down until it finally exits, and then it dissipates in the air and the bullet flies away. When the bullet doesn't come out, the second round you fire, all that pressure is trapped. When you trap pressure, you get an explosion. That would be Explosions 101. And the result is sometimes the barrel blows up or you get back blow. Different things can happen. But anytime you shoot a gun and it doesn't sound normal or it doesn't kick the same way and it sounds very quiet and easy and half, you want to stop shooting. You do not want to go into your tactical rap, tap, fire the second round, fire multiple rounds. That's a good way to blow yourself up. And again, a lot of people aren't taught this stuff. They're just taught the cool stuff. And if you've never seen anybody with their hand blown off or bleeding and call an ambulance to the range, which I've seen several times, not this particular thing, but ambulance get called to ranges quite often. Things happen. Ricochets, bullets, drop the gun, catch it. I mean, things happen. Like I said, if you want to eat ice cream out of your refrigerator, then do that and wear a helmet and eye protection. But I digress. Another quick example of a squib load. The bullet went down here and stopped, blocked the chamber, next round fired, blew the barrel up. I know I'm taking you all over the place on bullets, but I want you to understand what I'm talking about in terminology so you understand bullets. These bullets are not good, and you can say this is bad ammo, but I can make any bullet do this by pounding on the bullet. People are told when you have an semi-automatic and you unload and reload, because people buy expensive ammo because it's tactical cool to have, $40 box of ammo that you keep in your gun for 14 years because you don't want to shoot it because it costs so much. So people will use the same round and the same ammo all the time. They never shoot what they carry. Cops, we always shot what we carried. We don't want ammo that's old. We don't want ammo that's been exposed to the elements. We don't want ammo that's sitting around. When you come to the range, you shoot what you've been carrying and you get new ammo. Now, of course, I'm on the government, so I don't have to pay for it, so that's easy. I know most people on a budget, that gets expensive, but that's a good reason to shoot your ammo. Both these bullets have been pounded down, and this can happen either from a bad loading. If you pull this out of the box, then I'm saying it's bad ammo. This round does not look like it's been out of the box. Looks like it's been in a magazine for a while. There's scrapes and scratches on it. It's been loaded 14 times and been saved and kept and not shot. And each time you load that round, a little bit of pressure tapping. And after 10, 20, 30 taps, the bullet slowly moves down deeper into the casing. And that's not good, because now you have less room in here, you increase pressure. I mean, it's just not the way the bullet's designed to work. So you can blame the ammo for this, and if you pull it out of a box, then it's the ammo's fault. If you don't check it and load it, it's your fault. If you use the same ammo over and over and don't see that you're doing this, then it's your fault. Okay? I mean, again, I'm all for safety gear. It's reasonable, but it doesn't protect you from stupid. If you do stupid things, all the safety gear in the world will not save you, especially won't save other people around you. Another term that was being used was hang fire. A hang fire is a bullet that is fired and it doesn't perform like it's supposed to. There's either a delay and it goes off afterwards, except when you hit the primer. What do they say? Hang fire refers to unexpected delay between trigger firearm, the ignition of propellant. So let's look at a bullet. Here's your primer for a center fire. If it was a 22, your primer is all around here. So here's your primer on a center fire bullet. When you hit this primer, it creates a little explosion and it puts spark and flame heating source. Here's your gunpowder in your bullet. When this primer goes off, this catches fire, this explodes. The explosion creates pressure all around, and since the only place the pressure can go is forward, the bullet takes off down the barrel. This is your bullet. That's what flies out. This is your casing, which are normally brass. And the reason why it's brass is because when you fire, brass actually expands and completes a seal in the barrel to prevent gases from circling around here and leaving. So that's why brass has to be resized. That's why they use brass. It can expand and contract. That's why steel casing sometime will have a lacquer finish, because steel will expand, but it might crack, and that'll let gases. That lacquer finish helps seal the bullet into the barrel when you fire it and the heat, and it prevents gas from escaping. But that's, I mean, we could argue about that all day on what's good, bad, and why they use lacquer and steel and all that, rust, all kind of other things. But anyway, so this is what happens, and it happens very quickly. Bang, hammer hits this, flash, ignites this, boom, throws the bullet out the barrel. A hang fire is when you hit this and there's either no flash or a delayed flash, or you hit this and there is a small flash and it only ignites a little bit, or it kind of sits here and smolders for a second or two, and then it ignites the powder. So there is a delay. Instead of this happening bang, bang, and it happens before you know it, you hit this and you hear boop, and you're like, that sounded odd. That might be a hang fire. Let me keep my gun in a safe direction for about, and some people will say 10, some will say 15, some will say 20, some will say 30, some will say a minimum of a minute. Whatever. I mean, if it doesn't happen within 5 or 10 seconds, I'm jacking out the round. If you jack out the round before it goes off and it goes off after you jack it out, not the end of the world. If a bullet blows up when it's not in a barrel to where the pressure can go away, it kind of dissipates everywhere. You may get a little piece of brass on you. Probably nobody's going to get seriously hurt or killed unless you're looking right at it and you're 6 inches from your face. Then it might cut you, and then you can call the bad ammo. But if you're not looking at it and it's on the ground, it's not going to hurt you if it goes off. So the key point is, if you're taking it out, if you're ejecting it and it goes off, you're going to get an out-of-battery explosion, or it's out of breech or open breech, whatever you want to call it. And then you're going to get exactly what happened in that video. The bullet's going to explode. It's going to peel this brass back, and pieces are going to fly, and it's going to hit you if your face is looking at it. If you have eye pro on, your eyes aren't going to get hurt, but everything around the eye pro glasses will get hurt. So that's a hang fire. We talked about squib, hang fire, double feed. As you can tell by this 22 round, the round is actually jammed and you have torn the casing and mashed it. This is a 22 because I see the rim fire here. It's actually mashed down, and you know what? Guess what happens if you slam the slide into this a bunch of times, or if it can still load and you shoot this. It's not gonna work like it's supposed to work. Let's put it that way. So here's what I think the shooter should have seen when he looked. I think this 22, and this is if the casing, again, I can't figure out whether he had two bullets. One where the head had ripped off, the back part of the bullet is ripped off, and one where it had blown up and it was all peeled back. I think when he pulled his slide back, when he was shaking it, this is what he was seeing. This bullet could not load in here because there was brass from the other bullet that had been fired through there in there, and that's why the second bullet would not load. And when he saw this, his fix was to continuously ram the slide, and the bullet either crimped, bent, or the primer was hit and it went off. That's what I think happened, because he was shaking and turning it sideways. Could I be wrong? Yes. Have I been wrong before? Yep, sure have. Now, when we talked about the head casing coming off, this head casing right here, this was, imagine this is supposed to be connected here. And when the bullet fired and it came back, because this round did not come out of the barrel, it glued, stuck. If the barrel was really dirty, a dirty weapon can fire this. It trapped the brass. So the brass could not come out, so it literally ripped the head off. I think I have another picture. This is a centerfire round where it looks like the extractor might have ripped the head off. But it literally, if the round was stuck in the barrel and when the extractor pulled back, it pulled the rear end of the bullet off. If that happens, depending on where this tear happens, if you look down the barrel, you may not see that this casing is still in the barrel, because the only reason you see it is because of this part sticking out. You would say, oh, my barrel's blocked. But if this part is gone and you just have the brass stuck in a barrel and you try to shove another round in, it's not going to go, because the bullet won't go into the bullet won't go into the same area, because there's brass in the barrel now. So I think that's what happened, people. Was there errors on the operator? Yeah, I think there was. Could he have done it better? Sure. Does everybody make mistakes? Yeah. The more time you spend on the range, the more mistakes you're going to make and more you're going to learn. That's why I'm such a biggie on experience is the best teacher. Watching videos and telling people what you see and how they need to correct it and how they need to train is not the same as actual experience. Actual experience, you see people fail around you. You see the results of failure. You see when you fail, you learn. I guarantee you, this shooter will not look down his barrel when clearing a gun again, or when he sees a bullet hanging in there, he will not do that again. Why? Because he has actual experience. He didn't learn this from watching a video. So when I'm doing these videos, this is one part of learning. What's the old saying? I see, or I hear, I forget, I see, I remember, I do, and I understand. That's my problem with all these tactical trainers out there that have no experience. They don't understand. They may remember and they may be able to repeat, but they don't have working actual knowledge and experience. All right. Hopefully I covered a lot of things here. I want to cover, let me check my notes real quick. So on my notes, he only showed the one. He didn't show the other one. I think the other one was the first round when that head came off, but I'm not sure. This could have been. He said there was a second one. I would have liked to see the video on that. Again, the more information you have, the better decision you can make. We're all making guesses here. Was his clearing procedure accurate? It depends. If it was a center fire, if it wasn't, what did he see? How many rounds? I mean, just from the video, you would say it's not accurate because he got a blow-up round in his face. Was the round caught on the ejector? Maybe. If it was on the ejector and he was slamming it back and forth, could have got the same results. Same thing could have happened. I made a note of poor craftsman that blames his tools. I do the same thing on my horse channel. People that blame their horse because they can't ride, or they screw up, or they fall off, or they get bucked off, or the horse kicks them. You know what? Don't blame your tools, people. When I made that funny video, I was blaming the gun, I was blaming the ammo, I was blaming the tourniquet, I was blaming everything to make the point that, you know what, safety equipment's great, but if you do stupid shit with it, it's not going to save you. Okay? Clear your own gun, don't raise your hand. I did notice that he held his gun out after it went out. Let me go back to that. You notice right here, after the round got him in the face, he went, a lot of the safety salaries were saying, well, at least he followed good safety procedures, and at least he didn't. And that's true. He didn't. I've seen people turn around and point a gun at you and, you know, drop the gun, throw the gun. He didn't do any of that. So he did good for range safety procedures. Did he do good for actual surviving a critical life-threatening incident? I would say no. Because if he stands here like this waiting for somebody to help him in a critical, and somebody, well, Ricky would never do that if it was that. You know what? You do in real life what you do in training, which is, again, why I'm not a fan of range training a lot, because I think it counter-trains and it teaches a lot of things that are counterproductive to surviving. And then the last thing, gentle or aggressive, should he have cleared the gun slowly or aggressively? Remember, in tactical cool, you got to be fast and aggressive and show the gun who's boss and get it done. Hurry up, you're on the clock, the buzzer. Quick, hurry, you're going to lose time. And that's pressure. We got to put pressure on you because it makes you better when you get an actual incident. Well, if fan butts of coconuts. And then one guy made a comment what I thought was pretty freaking good. It says it looks like he was going faster than his experience allowed. I would agree with that assessment. Okay? No hate. Make it constructive. If I got something wrong term, or if somebody wants to clear it up in the comments. Argue it out in the comments. Try to play nice. Shut up, you big dummies. We'll end that there.